welcome to the Chorus and the Chaos podcast. My name is Jack, and I am, as always, joined by Blake, joined by Grayson. And we are on the 10th Commandment. This is the final episode of season 3. We've worked our way through the 10 Commandments. And this is, again, the 10th one will be on covetousness, and we'll dig into that shortly. Before we do, just a couple quick housekeeping items, as per usual. Reviews, again, podcast reviews, whether they be on Apple or Spotify or whatever the platform, those things really do help. So please, if you've been listening for a while and you don't hate us, give us a 5-star review. They really do help. I've commented on other episodes, but we'll look on Spotify, and something like 40% of the people who listen on Spotify find it because it's recommended. And that only happens because we have good reviews. So thank you for those of you who left a review. If you haven't, please just drop a 5-star review.
Even if you do hate us, drop a 5-star review and give us like that bona fide hatred where you can
really write it out.
Yeah. I mean, I think of that one post that the guy made. It was just like, these guys stand for conservative biblical Christianity. Yeah. And here's all the ways that, Well, he actually, I'm like, this is a perfect review for who we are. So,
right.
Yeah. But at least bump the number up because, conservative Christians whom you would target. It's like that meme from Spider-Man. It's like, you don't have to sell me on this, Peter. I already bought into it.
Yeah. Right. I'm already in. So,
yeah. Right.
Yeah. So final episode, Blake, I know you've been doing a lot of thinking and prep for season 4, which is, I don't know. I think we're targeting fall. I don't know that we have a firm launch date yet, but we're targeting this fall sometime. But you want to give a little blurb on season 4 and what the listeners can expect?
Yeah. So season 4, early fall release. We're going to try looking at the different cults. Particularly, we're going to be looking at American cults, but we probably will touch upon things like Islam and things like that as well that are going to be kind of pertinent things in the news, things around us, things like that. It should be not only informative, but we hope that in this season we'll be able to kind of educate people and clarify some things about the differences between a biblical Orthodox Christianity and things that are frankly wrong and false and sending people to hell. In that, we hope to equip folks to be able to stand for their faith and the things that they believe, kind of know the arguments from the other side. We also would just like to give in this season some interesting historical bits as well, because surrounding every cult are all kinds of wild stories and things like that historically. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be informative and beneficial, and that will be season 4, Lord willing, of The Chorus and the Chaos.
Yeah.
That'll be a fun one.
It'll be good. But tonight we're talking about the 10th Commandment, talking about covetousness and what that is. And we'll read the 10th Commandment in a moment. We've got some text that we'll dig into, but I thought I'd begin with a statistic. I like statistics. I think they're a good frame. And, our podcast was kind of birthed out of social media. So it's a place that is near and dear to us, maybe not dear to us, but near to us. Love, hate. But there's a lot of studies out there, right? And I think there's some common sense to the statistic. But in preparing for this, I read that nearly 60% of participants, so people that filled out this survey, viewed a friend as having a better life than theirs based on social media. Right? We live in a world that is rampant of covetousness, this Instaperfect social media life. These Instagrammers, these people who present everything as great and wonderful. We deal with advertising, which tells us constantly, you need this, you have to have the better thing, the faster thing, the cooler thing, right? We live in a world that breeds and just encourages everyone to covet everything around them, right? That you are never content and satisfied. Unfortunately, due to the fall, our hearts are sinfully wired to respond to this or to desire what other people have, be it the thing we don't have or maybe what somebody else has. Coveting tends to be one of those, we'll call it respectable sins. We've talked about a few of these over this season. And I say respectable because culturally it's kind of practically normal, right? We live in a culture where it's okay to covet something, to really want something. Like I really, really want this new PS5 or this car or some materialistic thing. Our society is very materialistic. So it's just bred into us. It doesn't get sinful headlines. Like if we don't think of it in the same class as murder or adultery or theft. But as we'll get into, and I hope is conveyed throughout this podcast, if this isn't a sin or a topic that you've thought a lot about, covetousness is incredibly dangerous because it is a behavior of the heart that often precedes these other sins. I've read, I think it was J.I. Packer said or maybe it was, I have to look at mine. I can't remember if it was Packer or Watson. I'm going back and forth now, but one of them said it's a mother sin and that it tends to birth other sins. It begins in the heart.
Yeah.
Covetousness, when left unchecked, I mean, it will truly destroy someone's entire life. And Blake, I think you've got an example here that you put together of a very famous movie character you wanted to talk about, right?
You know what? We've already talked about thou shalt not bear false witness, Jack.
Oh,
man, he got me.
Going for guns.
Yeah,
he got me.
But right now we're talking about the 10th commandment. So, Jack, why don't you give us your illustration that you
before the podcast?
No, I think it is. I was giving Jack a hard time saying that he was trying to get a job with the Gospel Coalition, but it is a good illustration. It is a good illustration from something that we like, the Lord of the Rings.
Yes. So we'll give it a pass. I mean,
we'll give it a pass.
Because
it's Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
We could say thou shalt not pass, but we won't.
That's true. We would not say that.
We
are not yet.
So give us your Gollum example.
Okay, so Gollum, right? Yeah. Everyone listening to this is probably familiar, at least if you've never read Lord of the Rings, you've probably seen the movies and you're familiar with this little kind of creepy, skinny guy in a loincloth hopping around talking about his precious, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. For if you haven't seen the movies,
I just sold it big time.
Yeah, it's like creepy, skinny guy in a loincloth. You're like, oh, yeah, this sounds like a good Christian example.
Right.
So, but in the Hobbit, in Lord of the Rings, Gollum is this character. He's consumed by an obsessive desire for the One Ring. I mean, he constantly calls it my precious, right? And his coveting, if you've seen the movies, they do a really good job. I think it's the beginning of the third film. They give his backstory, right? And his coveting began when he first saw it. His friend finds this ring on the bottom of the river. He brings it up, and he wants it so bad that he murders his friend. He kills his friend. So he loses it later, to Bilbo. And ultimately, his entire life, from the time that he saw this thing and began to covet it, his entire life revolves around it and regaining it and having it and cherishing it. And it's a bit on the nose of an analogy, right? But I think it's a pretty good one. There's a strong spiritual parallel that the ring ultimately represents a lot of things, but in this case, it represents an ultimate desire for him. It becomes it is the idol for him, not an idol, but the idol. Covetousness corrupts his heart. Gollum, throughout his story, he loses his humanity or whatever he was, a hobbit type creature, right? He loses his health, his relationships, he even loses his name. His obsession leads to paranoia, schizophrenia, betrayal, and ultimately his own death, right? At the end of the third movie. Spoiler alert. So if that's a spoiler alert at this point, then
you didn't want to watch the movies or read the books anyway.
You just didn't do it. Yeah.
So it's your fault.
But Gollum is a good example of what coveting is. It's kind of, again, it's a bit on the nose, but if you think about the character and what happened to him and what becomes of him and how it just consumes him, destroys him.
Right.
To me, Gollum is a pretty good example of covetousness, right? It reminds me a little bit of James 1, chapter 1, verses 14 through 15. He writes, but each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. And that desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin. And when sin is fully grown, brings forth death.
Right.
Gollum is, and in many ways, kind of an embodiment. His character is an embodiment of that text, I think, and just covetousness in general.
Well, and in the biblical pattern of how beginning in the heart, seeing something that's not yours and desiring it, and what you mentioned, Jack, of the being a mother sin. I mean, think of how many instances God has forbidden something or he has given it to someone else. And I mean, David and Bathsheba, there's an aspect of there, mingled with lust. the man that hid the treasures under his tent floor. You've got same
Achan.
scenario, things that you shouldn't, have. Adam and Eve, with the forbidden fruit. I mean, it's just all of these things mingled with, this is something that's not for me, whether God has expressly said this is not for you, or that he's given it to someone else, and by virtue of it being someone else's, it's not yours and cannot be yours. How many sins mingle with covetousness to produce this, again, sometimes life-destroying monster?
Yeah, absolutely. So for this episode, I put a couple goals. I think we want to explore what coveting is and what isn't. So that'll be one thing we want to cover. I think we'll spend some time digging into why it's dangerous. If it's not obvious already, we'll do a little bit of a deep dive there. Obviously, we'll want to tie this back to the gospel. So we'll discuss how covetousness points us to the gospel and the hope of the gospel. And then at the end, if you're a heart that wrestles regularly with covetousness, we're going to try and put together some practical tips to help a heart that's prone to covet.
Yeah.
Anything else by way of introduction, guys?
I have a rabbit trail.
Go for it.
It's like, please no.
Yeah.
Please no rabbit trail on my beautiful outline.
Just do it.
Yeah. No, you know how we've talked about this before. This was a long time ago because we had a mutual friend bring it up in our chat. When Christians say, I covet your prayers.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a short rabbit trail, but it's a rabbit trail nonetheless.
Yeah.
Right,
like, is that entirely
right?
appropriate?
I don't
know.
There's so many other words, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Why use that one? Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Like you wouldn't look at me and say, I lust after your prayers.
Like,
Right. What? Why would you say it like that?
Yeah. You want another?
Bro, just ask me to pray for you.
You want a rabbit off the rabbit trails?
Yeah.
Very quickly. Yeah. Another rabbit trail off the rabbit trail. So have you seen these pictures of these rabbits in Colorado that are growing? They have some disease. They're growing like tentacles out of their face.
It's crazy.
It's like disturbing looking. It's crazy.
I think it's AI.
It's not. It's not.
It's like a Cthulhu, but in rabbit form.
Yes.
So
it's totally bizarre. Some disease. Yeah.
Have you seen it, Blake?
No, I'm going to put that on my to-do list.
It's absolutely wild.
It is. It looks made up, but it's not.
This cute little rabbit, and then you're like, man, that looks like a demon.
Wow.
And in the news, because it's all over news articles, and in these news articles, they're like, don't pet the rabbits.
Yeah,
I'm like,
don't touch them.
Pet that rabbit.
If you are approaching a rabbit with like 15 different tentacles coming out of its head,
I'll pet that rabbit with the bottom of my boot. Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Right off the side of the cliff.
Yeah.
All right. It's like, don't touch the electric shock wire. We put the sign up because there was some idiot who did it.
Yeah.
So whoever wants to touch that rabbit, I mean, if you do it and you want to drop a comment on the YouTube channel or whatever else, let us know how that goes.
Are these wild rabbits that this is happening?
Yeah, wild rabbits. Yeah, not tame.
Okay.
It's some disease. And they say, the article I read says I thought this was harmless to the rabbit unless it obstructs breathing or eating. I'm like, that's not harmless to the rabbit. It looks it looks demonic.
Do you see its face?
Yeah.
It does not look harmless at all. It's absolutely, we should make that the actual image for this podcast is that.
What your heart looks like when you covet. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So back on track. So the 10th commandment, I'll read Exodus 20:17, the giving of the law. Exodus 20:17, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife or his male servant or his female servant or his ox or his donkey or anything that is your neighbor's. Blake, do you want to grab Deuteronomy 5:21?
I was just looking at this zombie rabbit.
You see
That's horrifying. It's so gross. That's so gross. Anyway, okay. Back on subject here. Got to shake that off. All right. Deuteronomy 5:21. And you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, and you shall not desire your neighbor's house, his field, or his male servant, or his female servant, his ox, or his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. The 10th commandment is kind of unique. So one of the things that we started this season off with, and we might have kind of belabored it a little bit, was the several episodes that we put into the commandments always having been an issue of the heart.
Okay. Yes.
And so one of the things that we've talked about was, that the Pharisees, they'd gotten to the point where as long as you were keeping it outwardly, as long as it wasn't physically murdering someone or whatever, then I was good to go. But this commandment is unique in that it is unavoidable to view it as a heart issue. And so even if you thought, well, I've kept the other, I haven't physically bound down to idols, I haven't physically killed anybody or physically had adultery or anything, there really is no physicality. It works out physically. Sometimes coveting does.
Right.
But there really is no physicality to it. It shows that this is an internal issue. One of the things that I was talking to these guys about, and I don't remember who said it, it's not original to me, but the thought that in the 10 Commandments, it begins with the thought that God is enough, and then it ends with God is enough. There's only one God, only him shall you worship, and then also that you shall not covet. Taking kind of those two thoughts, we see, again, that all of the commandments are sandwiched between really heart issues about how you view God and what he has done for you and what he has given you and who he is, and really being satisfied from beginning to end with God.
Yeah.
No matter what your circumstances are or what season of life you're in or any of those things. So this commandment is kind of unique and distinct in a way, especially for the original audience, because it deals with those heart desires, and it starts even in the commandment on the inside. Yep. And again, most of the law and the things that we've looked at, they've really had kind of that outward aspect, which is one of the things that Jesus is, comes on the scene and is correcting and things like that.
I constantly go back to, again, the law set in the context of their deliverance from Egypt and God's salvation, right? So there's this, I preached, I can't remember what passage in particular in John 6 that I reference this, but Jesus is going back to their time in the wilderness as God is giving them manna from heaven, and he's likening himself to manna from heaven. And one of the things that I just made a comment on, I was like, it's actually kind of interesting that the very objection that the Jews have against Jesus at the time of his coming is the same grumbling and complaining that the Israelites had as they were being led out of Egypt. Right. Yeah. And so there's that aspect of it where they both are looking at it and saying, what God has provided us with is not enough. The Israelites look at it and say, while we were in Egypt, while we were slaves, we had leeks and we had onions and we had all these different things of produce. And now we are starving in the desert. Yeah. And what does God do? He just says, fine, do you want quail? You're going to have quail until it comes out of your nostrils.
Right.
And he kills them as a result of it. It's absolutely brutal, but there's that aspect of, you see covetousness, even in that past life in bondage, where they're looking back on what they had even under oppression, and as they were crying out to God, saying, we wish we had that instead. And so covetousness is not just that aspect of saying, I want what my neighbor necessarily has. It goes, I think of previous circumstances in your own life where perhaps things were easier or quote unquote better. And yet you were in bondage.
Yeah. And there is, and I think that's a good spot to even say, when we're talking about these, sins of the heart as it pertains to kind of the overarching theme of dissatisfaction. Yeah. You've got these little fingerlings, much like those tumors off those rabbits' faces, that come off of dissatisfaction. So, you've got covetousness as one vein, dealing with, desiring that which does not belong to you, but belongs to somebody else, which in its, when I taught through the 10 Commandments, and I've done it a few times at our church, one of the most striking things to me about the 10th Commandment is we get through all these things of like, you know, it's good not to lie. It's good not to murder. It's good not to commit adultery and things like that. But like Jack mentioned in the opening, part of the American dream is greed and covetousness, you know, that it's actually seen as a positive trait. A positive trait is to want more and to claw for more and fight and climb the ladder and do all these different things. But ultimately, when we're coveting, what we're saying is that God is not good.
Yeah.
Because what God has given to Jack or to Grayson, he should have given that to me. Why do they have it? I should have that. So when you're looking at someone else's slave or someone else's car or someone else's house or someone else's ox or someone else's wife, saying, that should have been mine. God, you're not good because you gave them that and you haven't given that to me. I mean, and so that turns it from this is not just a quirk. This is no small thing. I mean, it's an accusation against the very goodness of God.
Yeah.
And so in all of that, this commandment, beginning in the heart, absolutely destroys any man who desires or thinks that he will gain favor with God by keeping an outward purity. Yeah. Because number 10 starts in the heart. Martin Luther said this. I thought this was a great quote that Jack hunted out for us. The last commandment, then, is addressed not to those whom the world considers wicked rogues, but precisely to the most upright, to people who wish to be commended as honest and virtuous because they have not offended against the preceding commandments. Again, it's just it's this is one of those unavoidable or inevitable, I guess, points of guilt for an individual. The Westminster Confession of Faith, which Jack is making me quote against my will. No, I'm just kidding. Right? Against my Baptistic will. No. Question 147. No, it's very good. It's very good. What are the duties required in the 10th Commandment? The duties required in the 10th Commandment are such a full contentment with our own condition and such a charitable frame of the whole soul toward our neighbor, as that all our inward motions and affections touching him tend unto and further all that good which is his. So I am content with what God has given me, and I have such a loving state of mind toward my neighbor that all of my emotions and my affections toward that individual actually build up my joy shared with their joy. I mean, this brings all of the light to for the Christian to weep with those who weep and to rejoice with those who rejoice. And when we hear that when one good thing happens to a member of the body, it happens to all of us. Right? It happens to all of us. And so in a sense that we can come along and celebrate God's goodness in their life. And that shouldn't be a point of covetousness or jealousy or anything like that. And this is such a perverse sin. And it so easily creeps in.
Yep.
Oh,
so I think of even
unconsciously.
Think about you're right. And think about it even in this way. How easy is it to let the thought in? You're sitting in church. Maybe some of our dear sisters listening. And they hear another Christian woman talking about all the wonderful things that her husband did this week. How easy is it to let that little thought in your mind, why isn't my husband like that? Why doesn't my husband faithfully, attend church? I wish I had a husband like hers.
Yep. Think of the childless couple.
Yeah.
As they watch, the family that struggles to pay their bills have the fourth or fifth child.
Yeah.
And yet they can't have a child medically or for whatever reason. And again, there's brokenness in this world that we have to acknowledge, but there's still that aspect in which our own hearts can go so swiftly towards looking at the God-given gifts that he has given others and saying, why not me?
Yeah. It's so germane to who we are too. Like, it's incredible. And when you start paying attention to just these little fleeting thoughts, right? It's incredible. Are you familiar? There's a story I've heard Michael Horton tell where he's talking to a rabbi, and I assume it's true, right? It sounds like a setup of a joke.
Right. So Michael Horton, a rabbi and a priest walk into a bar. Yeah, right.
No, he tells the story of a rabbi where this rabbi says, one of the great, and he's talking about the 10th Commandment. He says one of the great distinctions between your religion and my religion is when I read the 10th Commandment, if I were to understand this the way that you describe it, everyone is guilty all the time.
Right. Yeah.
Correct.
Right.
And Horton's like, yeah, that's it.
You got it.
Yeah.
You're reading it correctly.
Yeah.
But he makes that point. Like the Jewish idea is it tends to be so word outwardly.
I don't know how you used the wrong equation and got the
I don't
answer.
know.
Right.
But I think of even Psalm 67, so I'm just going to read it real quick. The whole heart of why they're asking God for these things in this petition is not focused on themselves. So the psalmist writes, God be merciful unto us and bless us, and cause his face to shine upon us, that thy way may be known upon earth, thy saving health among all nations. Let the people praise thee, O God. Let all the people praise thee. O let the nations be glad and sing for joy. For thou shalt judge the people righteously, and govern the nations upon the earth. Let the people praise thee, O God, and let all the people praise thee. Then shall the earth yield her increase, and God, even our own God, shall bless us. God shall bless us, and all the ends of the earth shall fear him. So what is that but a completely outward focus, in one sense, of saying, God first blessed the nations, the unbelieving pagan nations, and as a result you will bless us. Or, the cry is, bless us that we might therefore then be a blessing to them, so that your name may be known among the nations. Your fame, your praise will go forth.
Yeah.
Every aspect maybe I'm stealing from Piper here a little bit or somebody else, but it's like the whole reason why missions exist is that, the praise of God doesn't. But I would argue even among that, when we are looking at, excuse me, the blessings that God gives us, are we doing it with a heavenly minded focus so that we can look at it and say, your name be praised, your glory go forth?
Yeah.
Or do we look at it and say, I deserve this?
Right.
Yeah. There's a fundamental difference between covetousness and seeking God's blessing, not in a weird charismatic sense or health,
but you get into that
sense,
that greed kind of area. I mean, prosperity will either produce generosity or it'll produce greed, or it'll fuel generosity or it'll fuel greed. That's probably a better way to put it. So again, here's the thing. In the Christian life, there's landmines everywhere. there's no safe ground. Finances, your attitude, your motivations, your thinking, the people around you, your entertainment. I mean, all of it's full of landmines that you must, the amount of times that the Bible tells us to watch and to be alert and to think and to, decipher what's true and what's not true, all these things. I mean, it's just, obviously God knows mankind. Yeah. And we see that very clearly in Scripture.
Yeah.
As far as definitions go on this covetousness issue, in Hebrew, we have hamad, to desire, to take pleasure in, to long for. In Greek, in the New Testament, we have epithumeo, which is strong desire, which is often the illicit desire. Because one of the things we need to be clear about is that not all desire is wrong. And I think last season, or maybe the season before last, Common Struggles of the Christian Life, we talked about this issue of discontentment. Discontentment, again, fuels covetousness, greed, all these different things. But there is a holy discontentment.
Yeah.
Like anytime that you look around and you say, I need to, the prodigal son wakes up in the pig pen and says, things are better in my father's house. Like I am not like, it would be better if I was a slave in my father's house than where I am right now. That is a holy discontent. So there is an aspect that discontentment can be good. It can drive us to holiness. So not all desire is wrong. It's not a wrong desire to want to feed your children, to provide for your household. It's not a wrong desire to want to have children. The illustration that Grayson used earlier. It is not wrong to want a house over your, a roof over your head, or whatever the case is. But sin comes when that desire is disordered, or that it's directed toward what God has not given. I think maybe a good way to kind of cipher through that is, at the end of the day, if God does not give me my desire, what is my perception of God?
Yeah.
And that's going to be a good filter. And at the end of the podcast, we'll talk about some, filters to kind of help us understand if we have a covetousness problem.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if God doesn't give me this thing, how am I viewing God? Is it that God is not good, or is it that though he slay me, I will worship him?
Yeah.
The 10th Commandment, again, despite being written thousands of years ago, is still incredibly relevant because mankind's sinful hearts have not changed. Just as a side, anybody that tells you the Bible's outdated, the Bible has never read the Bible, or doesn't understand people, or a combination of the both.
Yeah.
Notice the items listed that we talked about. So in Deuteronomy 5:21, these are very practical things: house, spouse, job situation, provision, mode of transportation, status, all of these things. Just because we would say that these are maybe categorical examples, they're not exhaustive, right? They're suggestive, I think is what Jack said. So just because it doesn't say, don't covet your neighbor's PS5 or whatever, or their position at work or whatever, doesn't mean that it's okay to covet those things. I think you probably understand that. Our listeners are smart.
They're so smart.
So smart, yeah. So again, don't look for loopholes. I mean, this is in any of these commands, and we've talked about this in a few of the other commands too. It probably should have been repeated in every command. Don't approach the commandments looking for loopholes, right? That is not the spirit of the law. Don't look for items to say like, oh, well, can I covet this thing?
Well, gee, God, he said this, so let me see if I can just kind of get a little work around here.
Yeah, right. See, there's a little wiggle room in this commandment. Yeah,
that's how my inner voice sounds too.
Yeah, right. When you've got the devil on your shoulder, he's from New Jersey. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I think of like Kronk and Emperor's New Groove. Like, hold on, he's got a point.
Yeah, right. No, he's got right.
Look what I could do.
Yeah, right.
I would like to apologize to all of our New Jersey listeners for Blake's
both
insensitive
comment.
Yeah, I like how Blake gets blamed for me bringing. I literally gave the
right.
a very poor one at that, and it's just like,
right.
Good job, Blake.
Right.
Don't covet.
My culture is not your talking devil's shoulder.
New Jersey and accent.
Yeah. To covet, lastly, from me, and to deem oneself discontent in your current estate is sin. And every caution should be taken to avoid it. And if this is something that you are struggling with, again, toward the end of the podcast, we'll give some helpful tips that are not just theoretical, but I mean, things that I've had to work through in my own mind. That Grayson's had to work through. Jack has never been discontent, so he doesn't really know.
Blake and I have looked at Jack and been like, wow.
Right. Yeah. I'm actually coveting Jack's level of contentment.
Yes.
Actually.
Yeah. That's a holy discontent.
Right.
That's a holy content.
Paradox.
Right.
Wait.
No, look.
Right. Yeah.
No,
Lord,
Blake, I want to say, can I say what you said again?
Lord, why haven't you made me as content as that guy?
Yeah.
Let me say what you said again, because I think it's a really good point just to say before we continue, just to emphasize it. Because you said to covet and deem oneself discontent, that is to sin. Right. And I think it's easy because we've talked kind of about this, right? We've talked about the sin kind of broadly, but I think it's a really good direct statement, and maybe a thing that we just want to draw an underline to, right? Listener, to covet or deem oneself discontent in whatever situation you are in, according to the 10th commandment, is sin. That's a big deal. Yeah.
And a further clarification, even if you don't deem yourself discontent, you can still be discontent whether you recognize it or not.
Yeah. That's true.
Absolutely.
Here's a plug for godly friendships and godly relationships and the local church is we have blind spots, and for love of one another, we ought to be able to confront each other with these things. So if you have somebody, coming to you and saying, there's some discontentment going on or some covetousness going on or any other, kind of sin, I don't just immediately get upset with them. Test the situation and see if it's true, it's true.
Yeah. I mean, when you're talking about that, I mean, that's a perfect kind of segue into the next section here, but not every single desire that you have is covetousness or even sinful necessarily. Right. So we gave kind of some qualifications in the beginning of this, and we've talked about this before, but there is such a holy discontent. I want to be as godly as that man. I want to be faithfully in my word. I want to be faithfully in prayer. I want to grow in all these different disciplines that I know I need to put on, but I haven't yet. There is I would say, a holy discontent there. And there's nothing wrong with desiring those godly things, right? When Paul talks about that in Galatians 5, it's the fruit of the Spirit. He says, against such things there is no law, right? So when you look at gentleness and meekness and kindness and all these different elements in which the Spirit works within us as a result of the new birth, Paul just frankly says there's no sin there when it comes to increasing in all of these things. But the deeds of the flesh are obvious. So when you are looking at the spiritual disciplines, or you're looking at what it looks like to put on godly behavior, if you're discontent there, I think that would be a natural thing. And I think it's a good thing. There's also...
Can I give an example of that happened to me last week? I would say it was a good one. It was convicting in a good way. Have you guys listened to that? I listen to like one Joe Rogan podcast a month because they're like 9 hours long, and who has that amount of time?
To who?
Joe Rogan.
Who's that? I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
I was about to say, I'm just going to mute you.
Yeah, I've never listened to a Joe Rogan.
Grayson has been kicked from the session.
Joe Rogan podcast in my life.
I
know who
I don't
he
listen
is.
to many. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't listen to many, but you guys in chat, maybe it was
the
our friend
listener.
Stuart.
The listener should know that the second greatest joy in Grayson's life is making others feel like they're doing wrong for their entertainment choices. Right. So if I could just nuance that, right?
If I could just troll you in any way, shape, or form, and
make you feel bad about doing this,
make myself feel better about who I am,
right.
I'm gonna do that every day of the week, right?
Yeah. No, but so our friend Stuart was talking about Chad Wright, this guy that was on there, and I had to drive to Dallas, so I listened to it. I didn't know, and I had no idea who Chad Wright is. I still don't fully know. I think he's a YouTuber, does some stuff, former Navy SEAL, very outspoken Christian. But I was convicted and
was that the guy
admired?
That's the guy with like the beard and the long hair and like southern accent. Yeah. That guy. Yeah.
The way he shared the gospel.
Yeah.
The way he shared the gospel and was so direct and fearless in such a kind and just, I don't know, the way he shared the gospel, how fearless he was with Joe Rogan and just sharing the gospel and telling his story. And he did it. Oh, if you listen to the podcast, he does it over and over and over and over again.
Right.
And I was blown. I was like, wow, Lord, give me that courage and that ability to weave the gospel into like every conversation.
Yeah.
It was like, I was thanking the Lord for him, but it was convicting. And I would say it was a good and holy desire. I need to be more like that in my life in the way that he does that. So.
Did you, because I didn't listen to it. I saw like little bits and clips and things like that. So would you say that, I mean, he gave like several, it sounds like several clear gospel, like this is who Jesus is, this is what he's done, this is what, this is what your response needs to be.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Oh, okay. Because
I
saw the clips that were really going around were, when he kind of gets into like, election, and things like that. And he kind of like dipped into that, which again, only having seen those clips, I kind of thought, man, I don't know if I would, like with somebody that's not a believer, I don't know if I would immediately run to like, you can't believe unless, I mean, I don't
totally.
know.
I agree. That would be that was part of my thought process though. Cause I typically wouldn't do that either. I wouldn't lead with that. And that's probably wise most of the time. But the way he did it, it felt very natural and not weird in the you know what I mean? Like, if I just did it and we're just like, well,
right. And it's not, and it's not that it's weird. And it's not that you're hiding from the doctrine of election or anything like that. It's just, I always wonder, like in witnessing encounters, it seems like people are always trying to pull you off into the weeds on things, and you even see this like in comment, sections of things, they're trying to pull you off into like, I mean, because I've had witnessing encounters where it'll get interrupted. Like the person will interrupt and say like, well, what do you think about smoking? It's like, that's not like, let's put that off for now. And then we'll come back to that if needed, or whatever. And so I would never, I don't think anyway, and maybe I'm wrong.
Where are you at in preaching the Gospel of John right now?
Like what chapter? Just in chapter 1.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we finished we finished the prologue.
The prologue and everything like that. Like, I preached like 6 or 7 sermons in John 1. So it took me like almost 2 months to get through it. And there's so much there. Yeah. I actually just recently changed my mind on this whole thing because of John 6. Literally, Jesus, the whole chapter of John 6, so it's coming off the cuffs of John 5, right? So John 5 is dealing with the Pharisees in general, and he's speaking to the religious leaders. He's blasting them. And John 6 then focuses largely on the reprobate Israel. And so he's looking at the common man, those who are not religious leaders. He's fed the 5,000 men, which if you include women and children would be probably about 25,000, 30,000 people that witness this miracle. The fish and barley loaves. I do say so. Historically, that's accurate. I'm just saying. Yeah, no. But
does it make you feel weird that same number is in the Book of Mormon?
No, I don't. I discount anything that has to do with.
No, I don't know.
I don't take it even remotely
you listen
seriously.
To me. You listen to me. I've never listened to Joe Rogan, and I've never read the Book of Mormon.
Actually, I did read the Book of Mormon. So when I did a couple sermons on Mormonism, and I had I read through it, and I'm like, well, this is a bunch of barnacles.
Yeah.
Well,
so anyway, so he's talking to the. He's talking. Yeah.
John 6 is. I would argue, obviously, you get glimmers of the reality of election and predestination and everything like that before John 6.
John is dripping. It is the most like election centric.
Yep.
Like apart maybe from Romans. I mean, if you had Romans and John, like you cannot escape. Well, in Ephesians and every other book. Every other book of the Bible. Yeah. Right. You just can't escape it. You can't.
But John 6 is so thick with it, and he's preaching to the masses, and what the big picture of the entire chapter is he's looking at. I mean, there were many disciples, many followers at that point, and at the end of the chapter, they all depart from him because he said some very hard words that they have to hear. Right. And among them are just the 12. And he says, even one of you is a devil, right? Referring to Judas. Yeah. But the entirety of John 6, though,
thanks for that clarification.
Going through, just in case you didn't know.
Yeah, right.
Spoiler
alert. Yeah.
But the entirety of the chapter, I mean, it's replete. There's probably, I want to say 12 to 13 different references about election and predestination in John 6 alone.
Yeah.
And this is where he's talking about no man may come to me unless the Father draws him or teaches him, or I mean, all these different aspects of what we would say is Reformed soteriology.
Right.
But he's preaching this to a group of unbelieving people. And he's looking at them point blank and saying, and yet some of you don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes right into the next sentence. And this is why I said this, because no man may come unless the Father draws him or teaches him, or that the Spirit is, I mean, it's so thick with the doctrine of election and predestination in the midst of how he's preaching that it is natural. Yeah. And that's where I kind of changed my mind on it, is looking at that and saying, okay, I still don't think, like, that's not how I'm going to approach the everyday John, so to speak. Yeah. But if the topic comes up, I won't shy away from it in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, no.
In the midst of evangelism and say, but we've got about a third of our church that's unbelievers right now. That as I'm preaching through the sermon, they're coming up to me afterwards and asking questions. Okay, how does this work? And it's like, you know, how do you reconcile man's responsibility and divine sovereignty and election? Right. And it's like, well, I kind of robbed John MacArthur. I was like, I don't have to. This is just what the scriptures teach here. You are responsible to believe and repent and trust him by faith. Right. And yet there's no way that can happen unless a supernatural work takes place. So go back to John 2, John 3, talking about the new birth with Nicodemus. But all these different aspects in which John has been foreshadowing it all along. John 6, I would argue, is probably the most explicit so far that I've dealt with. And he just continues all throughout the rest of the gospel. But it made me realize, okay, so Christ himself is preaching to a crowd of unbelievers, specifically bringing up the topic of election. And the Jews respond to his entire dialogue. This is a hard word. Who can hear it? And the word in the Greek for hard is inflexible, intractable. Like, it's so rigid. Think of, you know, when somebody tells you as a preacher, you're being too intolerant, right? You're not giving enough wiggle room here. You're not giving the deference or the grace or the nuance as TCITC. Yeah. Classic nuance response, right? Yeah. But that's the thing is they literally look at him and say, it's too hard. It's too rigid, inflexible. Right. And then he goes right back into the topic of election again and talks about then, therefore, at the end of John 6, the reality of the Spirit. And so that's where I still wrestle with it.
I just need, because again, I hadn't listened to it. And since Jack has so much free time that he was able to listen to it, well, that I thought, well, you know, somebody that has listened to it and has a good head on their shoulders. Because it was just that one clip that's really, really circulating. And, you know, that Leighton Flowers did like a 4-hour episode on, you know.
Oh, did he? Of course.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's done like 3 or 4 episodes on that one thing. Joe Rogan was given Calvinism, not the gospel.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, you know what? The guy, so that we'll say this, that we'll get back on track. The guy kind of made the comment in passing, but he spent a lot of time talking about, like, this sounds like foolishness. It is foolishness. Yeah. If you are not elect, it is foolishness to you. Like, he was very direct in that way. Right. But he talked a lot about, like, the topic for, and I'm hope I'm presenting this correctly the way I remember it, but the topic of hypocrisy came up, and he answered it really well, because he was like, yeah, we're all hypocrites. That's why we need the gospel. That's why we need Jesus. Like he was going back to our sin against a holy God. Yeah. And that Christ is anyway.
I did love his follow-up, that guy, because, like, you know, obviously all this scuttlebutt about, like, oh, he's just Calvinistic. He's just Calvin and stuff. I love that video that's going around. He's like, I never read John Calvin. He's like, I've never read a Calvin book in my life. Me and Calvin must have had the same source material or something. Or we were reading the same book or something. Yeah, it was fun.
It reminds me, when wife and I were first dating and getting married, she had a pastor that she wanted to marry us, and she grew up with her daughter, so like lifelong friends. And he and I were in the garage having a cigar one night, shortly after we got married, and we're talking about election and predestination. He's like, "So you're a Calvinist?" I'm like, "What the heck is that?" He's like, "What do you mean, what the heck is that? Like, you are literally talking about Calvinism." I'm like, "Okay, I don't know what that is." And he's like, "Where did you get this idea from?" I was like, "I read the Bible."
One of the hardest things for an Arminian to believe is that you can, by the Spirit of God, naturally come to the conclusion of a Pauline or a Augustinian or a Calvinistic soteriology just from reading Scripture, because it always comes back to, oh, well, you must worship John Calvin, And so it's just weird. Anyway, we need to get back.
Servetus.
Yeah, let's get back.
I can see the pain in Jack's eyes right now.
He's just like,
we're 50 minutes in.
We're 50 minutes in. You guys you hijacked this and talked about the Gospel of John.
Yeah, exactly.
So, not all natural desires are bad, right?
Yep.
So let's go back to that. There's no evil in wanting to provide for your family, give them food. Obviously shower them with blessings on their birthdays and stuff like that, to have rest, to have a marriage, to have kids, to grow in godliness.
Yeah.
When these things are rightly ordered under the commandments of God, there's nothing wrong with that. So think of Hannah in 1 Samuel 1. Her motive is very personal, right? But it's also God-centered. And Jack, you made a very good comment here. She trusted God for her provision, ultimately. So 1 Samuel just reads, "She was deeply distressed and prayed to the Lord and wept bitterly. And she vowed a vow and said, 'O Lord of hosts, if you will indeed look upon the affliction of your servant and remember me and not forget your servant, but will give your servant a son, then I will give him to the Lord all the days of his life, and no razor shall touch his head.'" So she wants a kid, right? There's nothing wrong about that. But she recognizes, even in the midst of that, if you give me a kid, I will immediately give him back to you, because, and you can get into all sorts of different things as good old classic Baptists of dedication, stuff like that. I'm making a joke here because Jack's a token Presbyterian.
Yeah.
But ultimately what she's doing is looking back at this and saying, the Lord has given me a gift, and my son is not my son ultimately.
Right.
For her, everything about who she is tied up in this in one respect, but it's not tied up ultimately in the act of childbearing. It's tied up in the act of glorifying God through the act of childbearing.
Yeah. I think one important point too, especially with Hannah, is because we look at it like from an earthly perspective, and we say like, oh, well, it worked out. She has a kid. She's able to keep, this promise that she makes to the Lord, and this is a whole big, wonderful thing. The difficulty, though, I think in general, with covetousness, with greed, with dissatisfaction, discontentment, is when God says no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lord, if it be your will, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. And then, and to pray that and actually mean it, as exemplified in Christ and in that scenario, that is something wholly other than what we see when we trust God for something and he says yes. It's two different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jack, is coveting dangerous?
Some would say so. And by I mean God's word.
Yes. Yeah, we're at this 5 minutes left in the
Among
podcast.
Men, the debate is
and
out.
We just gotta
in God's word.
Yeah.
Unequivocally, yes.
We're at the 5 minutes left and sprinting now toward the finish line.
So I'll take the next second here. So the danger of coveting is what it says in our outline here. And we've already been very blunt that to covet is to sin. But I do think our society glosses over. We recognize it's a sin. I think most would say, yeah, it is a sin. but I don't think we often meditate on how deep and dangerous of a sin it really is. And Scripture has a lot to say about that. So I've got a couple of verses here, and again, I'll move through them quickly. So Colossians 3:5-6, it'll mention a list of sins, and covetousness is thrown in there. And I want you to just listen or pay attention to the grouping that it's in, to the company it keeps. Paul writes, "Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you: sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and covetousness, which is idolatry. On account of these, the wrath of God is coming." I mean, that's as blunt as one could be, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's not exactly a minor sin.
No. Yes. Yeah. This isn't an oopsie,
Yeah.
The wrath of God is coming. And we talked earlier that how a covetous heart, when left unchecked, it begins to fester, right? And it births all kinds of evils. It's a root sin, a mother sin. If you let covetousness grow in your heart, it'll produce things like greed, theft, adultery, even murder. Covetousness, it offends God. It's a rebellious sin. It is an act of rebellion because it declares, as Blake pointed out this earlier, that God's provision isn't good enough. When we covet, we are looking to the God of the universe and saying, this isn't good enough for me. That's essentially spiritually what we're doing. Right. Covetousness, it violates what is called both tables of the law. The law is kind of broken up in a vertical sense and a horizontal sense. It violates God and his goodness, and then often it violates our neighbor. We're coveting what our neighbor has, right? So it's destroyed, violates both ends, the horizontal and the side, right? And as Jesus said, the sum of the law, we're to love the Lord, the God, with all our heart, soul, strength, and mind, and our neighbor, right? Yeah. It eradicates both of those. It destroys and unravels that.
It kind of, that is interesting you said that, because that does kind of strike me that it is a direct attack. I hadn't thought about it this way, of the love of God too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. God, if you loved me, this wouldn't be like this, or if you loved me, you would give me this. It reminds me of Delilah with Samson. Like, why, if you really loved me, then you would, tell me, this, where's your strength come from? Why won't you give me this information? And how just gnawing she is, and how and the attack is directly against Samson's affections for her. So in the same kind of way, God, if you really loved me, you would do this or that. Or if you really loved me, why don't you love me? Why, it's this strange, I'm going to write that
It's a very
down.
Twisted, worldview. Yeah. A covetous heart, so in light of that, will destroy and damage relationships vertically and horizontally with those around you. A covetous heart will cause you to breed resentment for people around you. You become a very bitter person. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to, I'll close my little section here and I'll turn it over to Blake and we can talk about a little self-assessment here. But there's a text in Jude 14, verses 14-16. And if you've ever doubted the seriousness or the spiritual danger of what covetousness is, listen to this text. And this text, and I'll full disclosure, I got this out of The Rare Jewel of Christian Contentment, when Jeremiah Burroughs is basically describing how sinful discontentment is, right? And these two things are kind of
if you have not read that book, that's a top 25
for all three of us. It's like you have
to do it. Yes. So Jude 14:16, and just notice, I'll emphasize the words to kind of help bring the point, but notice the emphasis and the repetition that the text gives on grumbling and ungodliness, just this overall discontentment with what God has provided. It was also about these that Enoch, the seventh son of Adam, prophesied, saying, "Behold, the Lord comes with 10,000 of his holy ones to execute judgment on all and to convict all the ungodly of all their deeds of ungodliness that they have committed in such an ungodly way, and of all the harsh things that ungodly sinners have spoken against him." So again, he repeats ungodly many times. Yep. So what is ungodly? Right. Yeah. What are these people like?
Here we go. Buckle up.
Yeah. Verse 16. Yeah. These are grumblers, malcontents, following their own sinful desires. They are loudmouth boasters, showing favoritism to gain advantage. These are people who are entirely discontent with the lot that God has given them. And the scriptures equate that to ungodliness many times in the text. So to covet, to be malcontent and grumble about whatever your lot may be, is to embrace ungodliness. And it says that judgment is coming. Yeah.
All verse 16 about how all inclusive that description is. Like, there's no, like, as I'm sitting here, I can't think of one nationality, one socioeconomic, status, any place in time where this has not been true of all people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It slays everybody. It just does.
Jude is a phenomenal book in the sense of, I mean, obviously he's pointing out particular people that have crept into the confines of the church and they're seeking to destroy it. But when you look at verse 16, it's like, oh, they're grumblers. Okay, so what did Israel do in the wilderness?
Right.
They're malcontents. What did Israel do in the wilderness? They follow their own sinful desires. Oh, what did Israel do in the wilderness? They are loudmouthed boasters. Oh, what did Israel do? It's like, think back of this example, and Paul says all these things were written for our example,
right?
That we might not follow after their own ungodly lusts, just in the same sense.
It's almost like we're the same people of God. It's weird.
And the natural man just wants to
covenantal there, buddy.
And don't go down that rabbit trail. I'm sorry. I said it.
I'm sorry. Right.
I know what you're doing. When grumble
and the natural man
about that.
Yeah. The natural man looks at that and says, hey, Jude, don't make it bad.
Yeah.
Sing a sad song and make it better.
Yeah, exactly. All right. How do we know if we have a covetous heart? All right. We're an hour in. Let's get to some nitty gritty here. Throughout this whole series, we've been recommending 10 Commandments by Thomas Watson, 10 Commandments by Kevin DeYoung, a few other resources here and there. So this kind of series of questions comes from DeYoung's book on the 10 Commandments. It says, you might struggle with a covetous heart if, all right, now let's lay these out for you via Kevin DeYoung. You find yourself willing to hurt or take advantage of others to get something you want. You have a general preoccupation with accumulating and getting more stuff. Your stuff and lifestyle keep you distracted or too busy for time and devotion to God. You have an unwillingness to part with what you have for godly reasons. Frequent grumbling about your life, your house, your spouse, your possessions, your opportunities, your church, etc. If an honest assessment of these questions raises concerns about your heart, turn to Jesus and repent. That is a soul-probing list of tests, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, notice it's not exhaustive.
Yeah.
All it does
I did not enjoy reading that.
No.
That's why I highlighted it green.
Give this one to Blake.
Make Blake read this one. Yeah. First, we'll make him read the Westminster Confession of Faith, and then we'll hit him with some Kevin DeYoung. Yeah.
Yeah, I always think of, again,
see if we make him cry.
Piper's quote where he's talking about covetousness, and he's like, it's easy for me as a pastor to look at you and say you covet all these different things. He's like, but what I covet? He's like, what I covet books. And he said that, and I'm like, I mean, this was 10, 15 years ago that I listened to that sermon at that point. And I'm like, oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Why do you got to sting me like that?
You're right.
Because, you can wrap up all sorts of different good things and godly things, even in the confines of covetousness. And yet, what happens when those things go away from you? So if I prize my books, and I like my theological books, and I've built my library and spent money on it and everything else, time and energy to, organizing it, and yet I borrow, or I should not say borrow, but I lend a book out and it doesn't come back to me. And my default reaction, therefore, is to covet that book once more, or to look in that person, or look upon that person in an unfavorable disposition.
I don't know.
There's an aspect to it where it's like there's righteous indignation.
I think I would quibble with that a little bit, because I build my library by not returning books. So I'm just kidding.
At least 3 books from you, Grayson.
Yeah, right.
And like, now's the time. Like, give them back.
They're free books, Grayson. You said I could borrow it for as long as I needed it. Yeah. Right. No. No. I think. Yeah,
my point is bigger than
we don't have time for the rabbit trail.
Giving the book away and not giving it back. My point is more so I can wrap up things under what I would say are even godly pretenses for covetousness, because I desire more. Sure. Right? I desire the bigger library. Yeah. I can add books to my library that I'll never read. And it's good.
You're crossing lines. Sir.
I know, but there's a book there too where it's like, there's nothing wrong with building a resource, but at the same time, if that is an all-consuming thing,
right? If your preoccupation is the accumulation of and the getting more, and again, this
like, I've got a good sale from such and such publisher, and yet then I don't buy shoes for my kid that week.
Yeah,
who desperately needs shoes. It's like I think there's some.
They are just going to grow out of them. So
yeah. Well,
Grayson, I need some practical tips. I need some practical tips there.
Grayson,
practical tip number 1:
give me practical tips.
Bags to your children's feet so you can buy more books. When you're looking at things and saying, okay, if I have a problem with covetousness, if I have a covetous heart, make it habit and focus on being thankful for what you have.
Right.
Seek contentment. Paul says, I have learned to be content in all things, whether I had plenty or when I was in want. Jack, again, making us quote the Heidelberg Catechism this time on the 10th Commandment. Question 113.
Presbyterian propaganda.
You literally quoted the Heidelberg Catechism the last
I know. I'm just giving you a hard time. It's beautiful.
I quoted it before too.
It's beautiful.
When we Baptists willingly do it, it doesn't count, okay?
Right.
Yeah. Question 113. What does the 10th Commandment require of us? Answer: that not even the slightest thought or desire contrary in any of God's commandments should ever arise in our hearts. Rather, with all our heart, we should always hate all sin and delight in all righteousness. Mm-hmm. That, again, is an all-encompassing reality. And I think that's what they're obviously trying to stress here is there's aspects in which you can say, okay, this is not a bad thing to desire, but if it goes contrary to any of God's commandments, if it goes contrary to what he hates and what we ought to delight in, again, the things that he loves, then we are automatically in sin.
Right.
There's no quibbling with that.
Yeah. So much of it is it sounds new agey, but it's not. It's biblical.
Yeah.
So much of it is what you choose to focus on.
Yep.
We're going with our kids. We're going through Philippians 4:8 of the things that you should dwell on. Whatever is true, whatever
lovely,
is honorable,
good repute.
Whatever is. All of these things, and that this is more than just if you're going to combat discontent, covetousness, all of those things. It is going to be through the practices of setting your mind, having your mind renewed, and setting it on things that God has told us to think on. Like that first Thessalonians 5:18 passage that Jack wrote out for us here.
Give thanks in all circumstances. So how many? All.
Yeah.
Why? For this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you.
Yeah.
So are you scrambling to find out the will of God for your life right now?
Right. Here's one. Yeah, right.
Give thanks in everything.
Yeah.
And you'll do just fine. What that looks like practically, though, when you are starting to look at others and envy what they have, I mean, especially when it comes to social media, mute, unfollow, get rid of those things that trigger all of these different responses in your own heart and mind that are unhealthy and sinful. So if you need to leave social media, just do it. You're not going to miss anything by doing that.
Except the Course in the Chaos podcast.
Yeah. And some pretty dank memes about John Calvin.
Right.
And news stories about rabbits with terrible diseases.
Yeah. You know what's wild?
Other than that.
Right. Yeah, not missing much. Missing much.
No.
Yeah. I mean, it's the I love, Jack, again, what you put here about social media and advertising and things triggering envy. I mean, I think we've mentioned this before. Like, there are entire industries built around making you dissatisfied.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a passive thing. People have board meetings where they come together and they say, how can we make Blake, Jack, Grayson buy this product? How can we make them so discontent that they feel like they need this thing to be happy or to add value to their life or to their family's lives and all these things? Thinking not that all of those products are bad, but you have to realize it is very pointed. Something that really stood out to me. So every year, last couple of years, we've tried doing No Screen November. It's kind of what we've called it. So in our house, off social media, turning off the television, no movies, nothing. Just books and going outside and having fun together and all those kinds of things. One of the things that I noticed about myself, November, one of our lowest spending months. Because I'm on social media and I see, there's a book sale. One of our favorite publishers has got this new leather bound, this, that, or the other thing. Or, there's maybe this tool, like, that would be helpful in this project that I have coming up or whatever. I mean, and just being off of those things reflected in my own wallet. And the crazy thing is I have lived through every November, like not having those things.
The end of it, you're like, my gosh, I didn't get that snowflake multi-tool that was...
Right. Yeah, it didn't kill me. It didn't kill me. So the keeping yourself, like if you're, again, finding you're scrolling, so-and-so
Blake's secret,
high
though,
school,
is that he then asked for all those things for Christmas. So
Right. I actually, I try to scratch all of those itches the month before November to make sure, right. Yeah. No.
You spent double in October.
Yeah,
if you see their budget.
Wow, October is an expensive month. Yeah, exactly.
What's going on here?
Yeah. So, So, again, muting and unfollowing those social media accounts and stuff, that is, it's wild. It's wild what it will do for you.
But I think of like the entire credit card industry. It is designed for a particular purpose, and it is designed to get you to spend money on things for which you do not have the money for.
Right. Oh, hold on a second. Then Dave Ramsey's trying to enter the chat here.
Yeah. Are you mental?
Yeah. You stupid?
Don't spend that.
All right. Other practical tips.
In the converse side of things, though, give generously, give with liberality, right? Families who often give often and generously are more likely not to battle envy and covetousness. A generous heart is not a covetous heart. It's the same thing with one who's a thief, right? Paul's example of repentance is not that they just stop stealing, but that they go and work so that they may give with liberality.
Yeah.
Right. So there's the complete opposite end of the spectrum there where he says, okay, here's the path of repentance. If you suspect you have a covetous heart, why don't you start by just giving some things away that you dearly treasure?
Mm-hmm.
I know that might sound radical to some of you, but really it's, again, think of it. In 5 years, how much am I going to really miss this particular thing that I have?
Yeah.
It's a temptation, right? I get some freebies today because I started a job teaching at a Christian academy, and my natural thing was like, I'm not giving this to the kids. It's like like Skittles and pens and stupid crap.
You're not getting my Christian Academy pins. Click, click, click.
Yeah, it's like,
click, click, click. Yeah.
Who's the Christian dad? But it's like that's my immediate sinful thought and heart behind it is like, my kids will just take these things.
Yeah.
Well,
every time you give,
who cares?
Right. Every time you give, or anytime that you are generous in giving, you are proving to your own heart that thing does not have mastery over you.
Yes. Yep.
You know.
Yep. So give freely, give with liberality, give to the point in which it hurts you. Even I would suggest.
Right. Yeah.
Another one, token Presbyterian response here from Jack yet again. I'm just giving him a hard time once more because I have.
I like it. Hey, I like this one.
I like it too.
I like this one.
I like it too.
Right.
Honor the Sabbath. At first glance, it might seem unrelated, but dedicating a day of the week to rest, worship, and enjoying the gifts of God for you really will help you combat that heart that's prone to covetousness. So when you are able to just simply refocus your mind upon the Lord's Day and say, this is the day in which I will completely set aside and honor Christ in everything that I do, it should inspire an infectious result within the rest of your life, which every day then leads to that same disposition. So if you honor the Sabbath, if you honor the Lord's Day, and you are looking at it and saying, we are going to set aside this time for worship exclusively, then I would say the natural disposition of the true Christian is that you will start to crave that more than whatever other thing your greedy little heart desires.
Yeah. Greedy little heart. Yeah. And it ends with that, again, that God is enough.
Yeah.
Yep.
That God is what is satisfying, and that even if these other things, even if I could make some extra bank by working on Sunday, or even if I could, bolster my pride a little bit by having my, son's baseball team play on Sunday on travel ball or whatever, to not do those things, again, it is just another expression of these things do not have mastery over my life.
Yep.
The Lord has mastery.
Yes, that's the antithesis, right? And that's the point to push is quite literally, what is the thing that has mastery over your heart? Yeah. Is it all the stuff, the shiny baubles and trinkets that we can have in this life, and the potential for even fluffing our own pride on things that are intangible, or is it honoring Christ? Final one, again, if you believe that you might have a covetous heart, talk with your pastor, your elders, trusted men in the local church that can pray for you and keep you accountable. At the end of the day, there's all sorts of resources that are available, and they're great resources, and we hope that we can be of help to you in this kind of thing as well. But unless you're part of our church, we're not your shepherds. We can't lead you in those things as well as they can. And we don't know the specifics of your own desires and your own hearts. We can't,
and we don't love you we don't love you as much as they do. Either.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a nasty thing to say either.
It's the Bilbo thing. I like less than half of you of what
half as well as you deserve. I know. Yeah. But I mean, that's a reality though. And it's the same thing where it's like, I know Jack's children by proxy. I know Blake's children by proxy. And as a result of that, it's like I have an affection for them. Right. But I love my own children more than I love their children. Right. And there's nothing wrong or evil about that. It's me saying, okay, in my context, in the immediate sense of where I'm at, I don't have that, proximity of having that close of a relationship with Blake's children.
Right.
And so therefore I'm going to show my children deference in things. It's the same thing that your pastors can do that we can't do.
Yeah. They know you. Hopefully they know you better, that they are available to help, keep you accountable. And remember, with accountability is a tricky thing because you can only be held accountable as much as you're willing to be held accountable.
Yep.
And so being able to, talk about with a trusted, Christian brother or sister, or, an elder in your church, whatever, and say, this is an area that I'm struggling with. Maybe it's interesting that when you start talking about these things, how you'll find that other people have had similar struggles, or are currently struggling with that, or what places where they've saw victory and have overcome, by the grace of God in those things. So again, being kind of open about, your problems. And again, these things happen very well in the context of the local church.
Yeah, it's the interesting adage, I would say too, where, kind of to touch more off of what Blake said, you can only be as deeply accountable as you are deeply transparent, right? There's that aspect to it where if you don't share these things, it's the same thing we talked about in the beginning. This is a practical matter of the heart. And so people don't know the inward workings of your own heart and mind and soul when it comes to something like covetousness. It is a very private, secret sin.
Yeah.
And it will
until
one day
you
manifest
see the fruit,
itself.
right? Until you see the fruit of it. And when it's fruiting, then the root is already taken taken good seed. Yeah.
So take the axe to the root now, if it's a root that you are seeing in your heart, and just expose it. It's not fun. It's often painful, but you'll find that a good church and good elders and pastors will come alongside you, because the ultimate goal is always restoration and fellowship with Christ.
Yeah. Yep. Amen. Well, gentlemen, we made it. We made it through not just the podcast episode.
Yeah.
But through,
which it feels a little bit like that, an hour and 20.
The season. Yeah. That is that concludes our series on the 10 Commandments. Now, we can go red pill, blue pill here, because I've got a special surprise. Oops, it wasn't that. Off the mic. Yeah. To close things out, I've got either 4 banger quotes about the 10 Commandments, or if you're feeling like a little wild card, I've got a 5-minute or less chat GPT written parable to continue the lore of Pastor Simeon.
I vote Pastor Simeon. I clearly vote that. That is the only appropriate choice here. I covet Pastor Simeon's sage wisdom.
I hate that so much.
Yeah, that's why I'm just like, let's do it. Yeah.
Oh man, I want option A so much more than option B that I can't.
But option B
even
is so potentially cringe that it's like I almost have to know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Jack, if you do option B, will you promise to do the voices?
I didn't practice it. I just typed this. I don't even really know what it says.
So. No, then don't read that.
All right. Not the time for that.
We just need the banger quotes. That's all.
Well, we're going to go A.
What we'll do is we'll put up a paywall. And if you want that, then
if you want some bonus content.
Right.
I did scan it. I don't think it's heretical, but it is kind of goofy. But we'll go with the banger quotes.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
If Moses was here right now, what would he vote for?
Oh, he would absolutely vote for the Pastor Simeon.
Yeah. Are you kidding me? Like, Pastor Simeon was there when we struck the rock at Horeb.
Yeah.
Number 1. Yeah. This comes from John Calvin. These are quotes about the 10 Commandments. Little capstone on our
Let's end with some levity.
Yeah. Our life must be formed by the law, not only to external honesty, but to inward and spiritual righteousness. Right? We get that. Number 2, R.C. Sproul. This is a brief one, but it's good. Listener, he didn't say that. I'm adding that. The 10 Commandments are not 10 suggestions.
Classic.
That's a good one. Charles H. Spurgeon, one for the Baptist.
There we go.
You have deprived the gospel of its ablest auxiliary when you set aside the law. I like that one. And then the last one, again, these are all not super long, but Mr. Packer, J.I.,
Yeah.
He says,
Jack met one time.
I did meet him one time. It's true. God's love gave us the law, just as his love gave us the gospel. I like that.
Rip jip.
Yeah, it's when you get the truly reformed, bro. That's like, that violates a law gospel distinction. Way to go, J.I. Packer.
Guys, I'm really concerned if we're going to see J.I. Packer in heaven. Option B is being forced upon us, whether we like it or not.
I'm just kidding.
Well, anyway, send us out, Jack.
Yeah.
Sign us, Jack. Sign us out.
All right. That was my sign. I had two options. I did.
See, now this is an awkward close.
We're knee deep in the third season, and we still don't know how to end.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, boys, this has been fun. Hopefully, it has been beneficial for you listeners. It's been beneficial for me personally. We are looking very much forward to next season. Lord bless you all. May he keep you. Get into your local church, and we'll see you in about a month.